You can't top that. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Tim McFadden, and I am the co-chairman of the program committee of Missouri Venture Forum with Cindy Teasdale McGowan. And I'm also a partner at Posanelli. I'm chairman of the Startup Ventures Group in St. Louis. It is my honor today to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Chris Ruzicka of TechShop. Chris is a marketing and sales executive who has served in senior positions at various St. Louis organizations, including Gateway EDI, City Mortgage, Sara Lee, Anheuser-Busch, and Colliers Turley Martin Tucker. Chris is currently the Director of Business Development at TechShop, in which role he is engaged in corporations, foundations, and civic and institutional partnerships for TechShop. Chris has a master's degree in marketing from Webster University and a bachelor's degree in journalism from Marquette University. I give you Chris.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Steve, and Ron, especially thank you, and Ernesto for all your help. First and foremost, there's a revolution, and I want to welcome you to the next revolution, the industrial revolution. And simply what it is the maker movement. Before I go too far, let me stop. Let me ask you, the audience, to tell me, what have you always wanted to make? Regardless of having training or machines, what have you always wanted to make? Somebody just throw out an idea. What have you always wanted to make? I'm sorry? Furniture. What else? A house? Okay. What else? A what? A go big wheel? Okay, adult big wheel. Great idea. What else? A golf club? I personally, I like to fish with my kids. I don't know how many fishing poles we've gone through. I'd love to learn how to make a fishing pole. But really, we're in this revolution called the maker movement. And so you ask, what is a maker? You know, makers come in all sizes, shapes, and sizes. So we have some makers that want to make something just to make something. So I'll give you an example. I have 3 children. I have a son who wants to make a computer. I have a daughter that wants to make a computer. But I have one daughter who likes to monogram everything. Those who are not from St. Louis probably think we're a little strange here in St. Louis. We have our doors that have our initials on it. We have tennis shoes. Everything has our initials on it. She likes to monogram. But right now, she even monograms her shoes. But she has somebody that does it for her. So she has to pay for it. So she'd love to be able to get her hands on a vinyl cutter and be able to do it herself. We also have makers that want to redefine an industry. So we all know the story about Jim McKelvey and Jack Dorsey, both from St. Louis. As you all know, Jim was an artist and continues to be an artist. He was frustrated when he'd go to art shows. He wasn't able to take remote transactions. He was losing sales. So what did he do with Jack? Created the reader, the Square Reader. And it's now evaluated at what, $3 billion. I'm sorry, Steve? 3.4. 3.4. We have makers that want to leverage an existing product or an innovation. So I'll pass this around. We have an individual actually in a tech shop that prototyped an iPad case. He coincided this with the introduction of the iPad. He sold $1 million in the first 3 months. And then finally, we have some people that want to make things just to solve real problems, big world problems. You're going to hear shortly about 4 graduate students that saw a need in third world countries where babies were dying at an enormously high rate because they didn't have access to incubators. So what did they do? They created the Embrace incubation blanket. They got US companies to underwrite the cost, and now they've saved about 30 million lives. So again, makers come in all shapes and sizes. So again, I say welcome to the revolution. Mark Hatch, who is our CEO at TechShop, has written a book. I highly recommend it. It's called The Maker Movement Manifesto. In the book, he basically says, making isn't always about selling. It's just making to be able to give it away as well. But for the first time in a long time, we have a community, we have the internet, where we can, and the technology, and those people that are interested in making to help us. So there really is a revolution. People have this desire for more authentic and quality products, but really a renewed interest in making things. So I introduced you to TechShop. TechShop is a prototype, do-it-yourself workshop. 18,000 square feet of about $1 million of equipment. We'll be opening up here in St. Louis, our 9th location in the last 10 years. We really started as a startup in San Jose. Our goal is really just to democratize the access of tools for everyone. We'll be open to kids as young as 8 can use most of the major equipment. Kids even younger than 8 will be able to come through tours. But you know, before I go too far and talk about TechShop, let me introduce you to our founder, Jim Newton on the left, Mark Hatch, our CEO on the right, who can do a much better job at describing our value prop.
TechShop's a membership-based, do-it-yourself fabrication studio. 17,000 square feet of every tool you need to make anything on the planet. So the key piece, one of the key things that we're creating is a community of creatives in every major city who come together on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, or any time during the week and help one another get their projects done.
I was the science advisor for Mythbusters for season 3, so I had access to all the tools in both of the shops, in Adam's shop and Jamie's shop. So I could go and do personal projects after, we were done with our grueling day of figuring out how to blow stuff up and destroy things. But then when I got done with the show, I felt really stripped of that. I didn't have those tools anymore. I just wanted a shop so I could just goof around and make all the silly things that I want to make. So I thought about other ways to model it, and it occurred to me that maybe the health club type model might work for a fabrication shop, and that's kind of how it started. People are used to having an idea and realizing, oh, I have no idea how to get access to the tools I need for that. I don't know what kind of materials to use for that. I don't know where I would get help to figure that out. So people give up on their ideas. I think if you have a place like TechShop and the maker movement connected to that, makes it possible, not easier, it makes it actually possible for people to pursue their ideas.
So one of my favorite moments was really early on when I was sitting at my desk. Twitter had come out and I'd logged in and had my thing, but didn't really have anything to say. And then this guy walks down the hall, and I hear him talking to our dream consultant, and he's very excited, quite animated. He's like, I'm so glad that I found you guys. I can't believe you guys exist. I couldn't get my project done without this kind of platform. And the dream consultant asked him, well, what is it? What's your project? He says, oh, I'm working on a lunar lander. Yeah. It's like, you know what? I'm going to tweet that. It's like things I've heard at TechShop. Glad I found you guys so I could work on my lunar lander. And sure enough, it was a team that was competing in the Google X Prize.
People ask a lot, what do people make at TechShop? Well, it's like everything. Everything they have in their heads that they want to make. So, lots of automotive projects, lots of craft stuff, like you said. Lots of gifts, lots of prototypes for new products that people want to develop into businesses.
We believe that there are kind of two phases to this revolution. There's the first one, which is just core access to the tools, which will be in every major city. But then when you spool forward another 5 or 10 years and you can download files from IKEA and Ethan Allen and mix them the way you want them and then ship them to the local tech shop, you really do move into a Kinko's 3D kind of model. It's local, it's customized by a local artist that uses materials that have been perhaps grown locally or sourced locally. And that is a completely different supply chain. It's a completely different approach to acquiring things. You now get to make it on demand. And so, again, in my mind, if you're 6'7" and you're getting a table from IKEA, well, it's not going to fit. You need it higher. Or if you're 5'4", you want it lower. Or if the spot that you're looking to put it in, is 3 feet, where do you find the 3-foot table? And in the future, that's going to be normal. You're going to go in and say, well, these are my requirements. Here's how I want it made. And we're going to look back, 10 years and say, what kind of world were you guys living in where you had to buy clothing that actually didn't fit and tables that weren't the dimensions that you wanted and you couldn't customize? Like, kind of a bizarre place.
So that's so true. So now what I'm going to do is show you an inside view of an actual tech shop. This, like I said, will be the 9th tech shop. We have 3 in Northern California. Menlo Park, where Jim and Jack did the prototype for Square. We're also in San Jose and San Francisco. We're with Arizona State University. down in Chandler. So we're actually at their satellite campus. All their students have free access to TechShop. Since you bring all your materials in with you, we partnered with Lowe's down in Austin. So you walk out of a Lowe's, you go right into a TechShop. Ford Motor Company a couple years ago reached out to us, and they wanted us to come on their campus. So we have a TechShop actually on their campus. All their employees get half price off, but it's open to the public. The Department of Defense and DARPA brought us to Pittsburgh as well as to Arlington, Virginia. But I'm going to show you the TechShop in San Francisco. And just to give you some background, I have a twin brother. He is more the engineer. I would drive the tractor, he would fix the tractor. When we made a model, he would make the model and I would paint it. I was creative, he was the engineer. So here I'm going to TechShop in San Francisco with no experience in working with a laser jet, and I took a class, a 2-hour class, came away with a dog tag with my dog's name on it. Now my wife to this day will tell you that it's not straight, the dog's name, but I learned how to do that laser, and now I can go to any tech shop and use that piece of equipment. Now if 6 months later I have an idea of something I want to prototype and I'm a little still hazy on how to use that machine, we have what you call a dream consultant. These are people that not only our instructors help you learn how to do it, they help you prototype. So you're going to see some dream consultants in this video, which is a tech shop in San Francisco.
It is like Christmas every time you walk in the door. Not only are the machines that everybody knows there, but new machines keep coming in.
Looking at tools is awesome. Having access to them is something that gets the kid in me really jazzed to go out and try and build something.
I made a resolution that I wanted to make things with my hands. I hadn't made something that was actually completely made by me since like elementary school.
TechShop is an amazing ecosystem. It supports every layer of product design.
So
and
this is the
development.
iPad.
The social network, it consists of everything from quilters to welders to people using 3D printers. And there's an amazing cross-pollination that happens there that wouldn't happen anywhere else.
This is really a unique spot. Everyone's doing something really different, but it's all to make some kind of big dream come alive, to make a dent in the universe.
Why let your imagination be limited by tools? Whether it's a flowjet water cutter or the lasers, having all these fantastic tools available to scale and test and even make the product. That's really amazing.
When I came in, I didn't have any idea how to actually program the tool that I needed to use, but I was able to learn it in such a quick manner that 30 days later I was producing products. For the Dodo case, we set out to make a product that used modern manufacturing techniques, but also artisanal craft techniques. Having someone there who was ready to teach me how to use a tool was the catalyst that really made a difference.
The friction that people might otherwise experience from having to take an idea and figure out how to get somebody else to make it is gone. I go from idea to creation to something tangible that other people value and buy in very little time. I came into TechShop with this idea of building a business, and it allowed me to build a business kind of straight away. My name is Tina Albin-Lax, and I'm an entrepreneur.
My name's Patrick Buckley, and I'm an artisan.
I'm Andy Philo, and I'm a Silicon Valley inventor.
It's the access to the tools, the expertise, and the speed of gaining knowledge about how to use them that makes TechShop really unique.
It's limited by your imagination, so really when you come to TechShop, make sure you bring a big one because you can do so much here.
Pretty exciting. So TechShop, as you can see, isn't for people that necessarily have ever used tools. It could be for someone who likes to tinker. It could be someone who's used to working in their garage, somebody that wants a prototype, but it can also be for somebody who's never made something. We have over 100 classes that aren't always equipment-based, so you can learn how to design a logo. So if you're an entrepreneur and you can't afford to pay an artist, you can learn how to do it as well. When you look at what's been developed at TechShop, and I'll give you a list of some of the prototypes, as well as our machinery. But we already talked about the Square. The Dodo case, the individual who was making the iPad case in the video, he sold, like I said, $1 million in the first 3 months. We also have a product called Lumio. If any of you watched Shark Tank, it's a book that opens up, it's magnetized to a light. He estimates that right now about $2.5 million in sales in 2014 alone. Like I mentioned, Jim McKelvey and Jack Dorsey in 2009 in Menlo Park actually did their prototype. Too bad we didn't have a TechShop 2009. That he could have made it here. The good news is Square now has, 150, 200 jobs here in St. Louis, right below my office. So that's exciting. We also had an individual that created a satellite in a TechShop. This is really interesting. You might have again seen this in Shark Tank. It's a kayak that folds down to a carrying case, 25 pounds. This individual lives in San Francisco. He couldn't get a kayak, obviously, into his apartment or his car. He now sells these online. Believe it or not, even though we have 3D printers, I talked to somebody today that makes 3D printers. We actually had someone that prototyped a 3D printer, is now selling a 3D printer. This individual, it's a self-regulating tire inflator that he developed. This is that Lumio book I talked about, that it's a book that opens up to a light. That's actually on back order. I wanted to bring it today. It's been back ordered 3 months. Here's Patrick Buckley, again, $1 million of sales in the first 3 months. He coincided it with the introduction of the iPad. This individual came out of retirement and developed an efficient server cooling system. Believe it or not, this individual now works for Monsanto. Actually, Monsanto bought his company. It's an agricultural green technology that reduces runoff. Again, his company, I went and presented to Monsanto. Monsanto said, he's actually an employee of ours. They bought the company. These two, it's a stove. As you use the stove, it recharges the battery. This is what I was mentioning. This is the Embrace blanket. Again, these graduate students saw in third world countries that babies were dying at an enormously high rate. So they developed the Embrace incubation blanket, got the cost underwritten by US companies, and are now shipping these overseas. Again, up to 30,000 babies have been saved because of the Embrace blanket. You'll see a lot of write-ups about that. And then here's some resource sanitation device that was developed as well. So St. Louis specifically, the question is always asked, when are you opening up? I can say for certainty by the end of the month. Can't give you a date, but we will have an open house probably in the next couple weeks. We'll be open from 9 to midnight, 7 days a week. We're really, again, a membership-based organization, so it's month to month. But you don't have to be a member to take over 100 classes. The classes as well as the equipment, you can either walk in and there's a big screen, like I did when I went to San Francisco, or you can go online, like you book a conference room, and just book either a class or book a piece of equipment. We'll be 18,000 square feet, about $1 million of equipment. I'll go over some of the major equipment. Rates, for students, it's $95 and active military a month. For everyone else, $150. We have corporate rates. We have about 23 companies that have already signed up to use TechShop. Their rates vary depending upon the number of memberships, the duration of their contracts. So they're getting anywhere from a 5 to 25% discount. We have some organizations that have signed up for 3-year memberships already. We have, like I said, what I'm most excited about, the classes. Test us out. Again, you can take over 100 classes, 7 days a week, all throughout the day. We have instructors. We have dream consultants I talked about. But we also have members that are instructors. So let me tell you a story. There's an individual that works at BJC. He's the president of the Ham Radio Club. He wants to teach a class on ham radios. There's a resurgence of ham radios. Most major hospitals have to have ham radios. So he's interested in teaching a class. He didn't know it at the time, but I said, if your class is approved and you teach at least 12 hours a month, you pay for your membership. So we don't just have our instructors, we have members of the community that are actually teaching as well. You know, before we go into market, people always ask me, what does it take? Again, this will be the 9th market. When people first mentioned St. Louis as a destination for TechShop, they're thinking, what are you thinking? But then we realized, met with Dennis Lauer at Cortex and saw what was going on in the Cortex community. And not just in the Cortex, really what was going on in St. Louis. The old post office, T-Rex, it's exciting. I mean, there's tours, international tours every week, national tours going through Cortex. I know, I was giving one the other day. Most St. Louisans still think, oh, isn't that where IKEA is? And there's a couple companies down there. but we're really, everybody's trying to mirror what's going on here. So for obvious reasons, it was a great place for us to do our due diligence. We typically, before we go into market, look for about $3 million in incentives. So for instance, in Austin, Lowe's put up most of the money. Down in Arizona, most of the money was put up by Arizona State University. Up in in Detroit, it was Ford. Well, here in St. Louis, it was not only Cortex, but it was also some of our founding partners. Monsanto, Washington University, and SLU committed 3 years ago. So it was really exciting. So it was an obvious place for us to go. I think the biggest benefit among all the benefits, especially for our entrepreneurs, is that we'll be able to accelerate innovation by saving time and cost at the prototyping stage of product development. So imagine what you can make. I'm going to show you some of the equipment. We're going to have CNC, computer and mirror controlled machine. Those have already been installed. We'll have multiple 3D printers. Now everybody, even though there seems to be 3D printers everywhere, most people don't know how to use them. When I work shows, the kids will come up and they get it, and the parents act like they get it, and then when the kids walks away, now how does this really work? So there's a lot of excitement around 3D printer, and people always say, well, wait a minute, is there going to be a line for some of these machines? But again, you can book ahead of time, or you can also go in. If we find a machine that's consistently being used and there is a line, we'll either bring on a temporary basis or full-time basis additional machines. So we've been doing this for 10 years. We think we've ironed it out. We'll also have a laser lab, sheet metal, welding, water jet. It's pretty exciting. That's what most people, makers, are excited about. It cuts through anything that's 6 inches. It's pretty amazing. Woodworking, plastics. We'll partner with National Instruments and Autodesk on the software and hardware. Textiles, we'll have industrial sewing machines, embroidery, quilting. Has anybody ever heard of the company here in St. Louis called Taconi? They're one of the largest manufacturers and distributors of sewing machines. I've been working with them. They're actually donating several machines for us to use. What's really interesting, when I went on their tour, they have a sewing machine now that blows thread into the needle, so you don't even have to thread the needle. It's pretty exciting. But they're right here in St. Louis. We'll have team and group events. We'll have 3 conference rooms that hold up to 50 people. And any organization, even if they aren't a member, that's promoting startups, manufacturing, STEM, and STEAM, and believe it or not, here in the St. Louis area, as well as around the country, the Catholic school system calls it STREAM, R for religion. So we'll be hosting events for not just members, but those organizations promoting those things. We'll also do community outreach. In some of our markets, we have mobile units that actually go into underserved areas, where we'll have 6 or 7 pieces of equipment that go into a mobile unit, similar to like a bookmobile. We just delivered the first of 3 mobile units to the Navy, so we can do additional training with the Navy. We'll do a lot of community events, like I said, going out into the marketplace. We've already been displaying, as well as showing kids, as well as adults, some of the technology. We have a lot of national partners. I talked about some of them. GE, for instance, they give away 3,000 memberships a year, TechShop memberships away to veterans. Veterans can get a year membership as well as classes. And veterans here in St. Louis will be able to apply as well. I talked about our partnership with Ford. Intel, I don't know if anybody has seen on the cable network, there's a show called America's #1 Maker. Intel is the sponsor of it. And they actually filmed it in a tech shop. The team that won the first episode, they had an app that was tied to a toothbrush, so as kids are brushing their teeth, they get points, and they won $1 million. Leroy Merlin, if anybody's been in Europe, Leroy Merlin is almost like an IKEA format. We own all our locations here, but overseas we license the TechShop name. Leroy Merlin has several tech shops as well as mobile units over in Europe. We help them do the build out, do the hiring, also we do machines, and then we license the name. Here are our St. Louis partners. Like I said, WashU, SLU, and Monsanto have been with us from the very beginning, but since I came on in October, we now have about 23 companies in St. Louis. You may look at some of these names, and you could probably relate to a company like Laserlight and Sergioscopy. They're prototyping company, engineering firms, so that makes sense for them if they're at capacity or need additional machines. Or the Student Robotics Association, they're making their robots. That makes sense, but people ask, what about Accenture? Well, what Accenture's planning on doing is exposing their clients to the makerspace, but also to the innovation community, so they can be gifting on a quarterly basis to their clients. Pocinelli, obviously, when Tim's group, it makes sense for them to be able to help the entrepreneurs. Once they're past the prototyping stage, they could use their services. So again, about 23 organizations, for-profit as well as non-for-profit organizations. A lot of the high schools are interested, a lot of the grade school junior achievement, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. We're really here to promote innovation, but also STEAM and STEM. So what's the potential impact for St. Louis? Let me just give you an example of TechShop-born companies have created about $12 billion of shareholder value, about 2,000 well-paying jobs. And in California alone, $20 million of income tax revenue in California alone. So I think it's really going to make a big impact in St. Louis. And again, it'll help accelerate the innovation. So I would suggest, even if you think you're not a maker, you try making. And again, you don't have to be a maker to be able to take over 100 classes. So go out and start making. Now what I want to do is open it up for questions. Good question. If you have a membership here, can you use your membership in Tokyo? No. If you have a membership here in the States, you can use any of the locations here in the United States if you have a St. Louis membership, but we own license overseas. There is a discount, but you cannot use it. Good question. What other questions? Yes? I'll repeat it.
Last year, I got a design class, there might be 60, 70 students, and I know Washington has memberships. How can I check my students and make them use the facilities?
Well, first and foremost, so the question is, how can she arrange to have her students be able to use TechShop? Did I get that right? First and foremost, I want to say we provide tours. So even if you aren't a member, WashU is a member, but even if you aren't, we'll provide school tours or tours for your organization. We have a new member ambassador. At least twice a day we'll be giving tours, so there's no cost to that. But students who, Washington University, for instance, does have memberships. Because they've negotiated a pretty good rate, they're getting 100 memberships that they're rotating. Students at WashU, as well as faculty, they'll be able to get that same discounted rate. What they do is either call or come in, and they just show that they are a member of WashU family, and they can get the discounted rate.
So it just has to be on an individual basis associated with an individual, or can anyone in my class, for instance, go?
Good question. She asked, can it be an individual or can you group membership? Is that what you're asking? Yes, you could potentially do a group membership. So there's organizations that are getting discounts starting at 5 memberships. You can get discounts. But WashU does have a pretty good rate already. But we can talk. Okay, what else?
Months ago, when the head of Cortex was here, Dennis Lowry, I used our LINK program and invited you here for the first time.
Right.
How can we use the LINK program to help other Cortex innovators around leverage the Missouri Venture Forum? And then second, what's maybe one of the coolest things that you've seen coming around there of what you're doing there now of a startup? Because I've seen, Made in Space, and it's something that's out there. It's a for-profit entity on the space station. It's only one thing. What is a really cool company that comes to mind that is using Makerspace? You think might be early on coming out?
Dave, let me ask you again. What was your first question? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
How can we, as the Missouri Venture Forum, leverage LINK for other people around, perhaps in the Makerspace or in all of Cortex? How can we help it to accelerate Cortex even further?
Right. And help me out again. I'm not as familiar with LINK, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, that was what I used to invite you here.
Okay.
To get somebody to come in free to see the Missouri.
And so you're asking about Cortex or TechShop specifically?
We'll say how we can, with TechShop, how we can get a way to help TechShop and any other thing, whether they go and use the shared space or they rent a space somewhere in Cortex. How can we, as a Missouri Venture Forum, help you out or help Cortex that you're within?
Great, good idea. One thing I would suggest is a great question. When I first started, there wasn't a building on the ground. And somebody said, you started in October, you're selling TechShop. I can't go through it, I can't even see it. But what we have here in St. Louis is a lot of incubation spaces like the old post office, like T-Rex, and we have Cortex. So I was amazed at the number of people from St. Louis, and not totally shocked, that had never been through Cortex. So my suggestion is, which I think you already do, is bring people into the space. Before I even introduce them to TechShop, I introduce them to what's going on in the startup community and what's going on there at Cortex. It's not just about IKEA and a couple companies. There's over 250 companies. So I've brought organizations, chairman of the board of Watlow down there, head of innovation for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Most people have not been down there. When I asked the WashU student group, it was actually a group of 60 engineers. And WashU is not too far from Cortex. How many of you students have ever been to Cortex, the innovation district? Not one. Now, we all get it. We're at college. We usually don't leave campus. But they have a shuttle that goes from WashU down to Cortex. So I guess my suggestion is start having tours, bringing people into that space. You're allowed to do that. Introduce your clients, your peers. That would be the one. The second question is, you're asking what's the most exciting product? You know, obviously nobody started making here, and I'm thinking of some of the companies that are forming here, but I really think the most impressive startup I've seen so far is Push Up Social. Anybody know Dan Lohman? It's a company that takes your website and instantaneously adds a community page. So instead of taking people away from your site to Facebook, Twitter, you keep them on the page. And for I think 89 or 90, tell Dan I didn't quote it exactly right, but within a matter of minutes you can do it. So that to me, of all the companies I've seen, at least in the Cortex area, that I'm excited about and I promote is Push Up Social. Good question, Dave. And thanks for the introduction to the Missouri Venture Forum. Yes?
It's your membership fee. How about like the materials cost? How do you track that? I mean, if you're playing around on the stuff, if you're using material, how do you track that? How do you charge that?
Good question. You bring all your materials in, with the exception of the cord that we use for 3D printing, and we do have a retail store, so if you forget something minor, but you can imagine, people are making jewelry, people are making iPads, people are making robots, so you bring all your material in. There was a question over here. Steve.
Yeah, Chris, are you doing events? I mean, for example, if I wanted to, we have more engineers want to come in and geek out over a class on 3D printing, is that something that we could work out together?
Great. He asked if we're doing events. So there's a company here in St. Louis. They're not buying membership, they're buying workshops. So basically what they're going to do, they're bringing on 200 employees in the next 6 months. Every month they're going to bring in their new employees from around the country with their existing employees, come over to TechShop and do a team building workshop. So for instance, 1 month they're thinking of either everybody brings in a wine glass. Martha would bring in a wine glass, Martha Yulhorn, but some people would bring in a beer glass, and you can learn how to etch, and then you walk away with your name in the etched glass. The next month may be robots. So there's opportunities also for organizations who don't want to do team building. They just want to have a tour, get a demonstration of some of the machines, and then use the conference room. So there are those opportunities. Similar to Cortex, sometimes we may give you the room free. It depends upon your usage. Sometimes there may be a cost. We have storage space. People always ask that question. We'll have lockers, but if you're making something and you want to store something rather large, you can get that as well. In addition to the conference room, some tech shops have office spaces that you can lease. Because of the fact that we're right in the middle of the Cortex Innovation District, it didn't make sense for us to have meeting space, offices that you can lease. Yes?
I have one more question. How large an item can people make? Kayaks are like this, cruisers like
Right.
that. But how does that work?
It really depends case by case, but we have people that say, hey, can I bring in something larger than the kayak, and can I store it for more than a certain amount of time? It really depends upon the item. Some of our restrictions are obviously if there's fuels that could combust, things of that nature. But we do workshops, we do classes, and we have instructors that are members as well as non-members. Yes?
How much do your classes cost?
Classes, good question. Classes can range from $30 up to $250. They're usually about 1 to 3 hours. There's usually 4 other people in the class. If you go to our website, techshop.com, right now we don't have a link to St. Louis, but it'll show under classes all the cities. You can click on, let's say, San Jose. It'll list all the classes in San Jose, and then you can go to month at a glance, because we have some people say, well, look, I work during the day. I can only take a class on the weekends or at night. You can see all the classes. Our equipment from city to city is the same because you're required to take a basic use safety class for every major piece of equipment. If you're a student from 8 years to 16 years of age, you have to be with a parent, a guardian, or a teacher. The classes do vary from market to market depending upon what the market needs were. I saw a question back here. Yes?
Roughly what percentage of the activity there is devoted to one-off prototypes or continuing operation?
So that's a real good question. We're a prototyping studio. So once we see an individual that's using us for production capabilities, in so many ways we kind of push them out. So we're not a production, what we'll do is we have several members that we're going to recommend them to. And so people always ask me, well, I'm ready now to go to full production, and you guys can't provide that. Who do I go to? We hire people, and we'll have a staff of about 15 to 20 people. We've hired our GM, our dream consultant, our new member ambassador, but we'll recommend. We had somebody that said, I'm going to haul stuff, but I don't have a truck. Believe me, this is more than a space with tools and technology. It's a community of people who are sharing ideas, and some of those ideas are, how do you get some of that stuff done? I want to go into full production. Where do I go? Yes?
So does TechShop handle ceramics and glass? I didn't notice if that was captured in the slides. And if not, are there ways to communicate designs for fabrication to other entities that could produce such an item?
Yes. Well, first, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, you can bring in your own software, or you can use the software we have. We do silk screening. We have some of the arts. Specifically glass, I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out. Okay? But did I answer your question? I'm sorry? Ceramics. We do some ceramics. It's limited. But what I can do, if anybody wants my card, I can give you a list. There's over $1 million of equipment, 5 columns of equipment. I can send that to you. But also I'd suggest, and I know we do ceramic classes. I know we do glass blowing classes as well. So, but I can send you the list. And also you can see on our website all the classes we offer. But we are in those areas as well. To what extent, I don't know. Yes?
I know you said that you're supposed to bring your own materials. This kind of follows on the question or comment over there. Do you help source people for other materials, rare materials? Like the guy that was making the lunar lander probably didn't get everything from Lowe's.
Right. We, one of the reasons we hire the people we hire, they're people that know the community and know where the resources are. So we will have not only members, but staff that can help you be able to do that. What's so exciting about St. Louis, I've been working with the Center for Emerging Technology with Christy Maxfield, which helps about 40 entrepreneurs every fall through a boot camp. And St. Louis has over 250 organizations free of charge that help entrepreneurs. And so we'll be doing the same thing. Yes? How did we arrive at St. Louis as our next location? First and foremost, it was Dennis Lauer and the Cortex team. We saw, first and foremost, that we could drop a tech shop in an area of innovation, startups, and there's a lot of need for those that are in consumer products manufacturing to prototype. First and foremost, St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis was a great opportunity for us. There wasn't a lot of competition here. In some markets there are. But I think there was also, most importantly, it was the commitment we got from those organizations I mentioned, Monsanto, WashU, Salou, and since then, all the other organizations are so excited. I'm not just selling corporate membership. We have individuals that have already bought lifetime memberships. I have an individual who came to see me, and he said selfishly he wanted to know the difference between this tech shop and the one in Detroit. His son makes all his furniture in Detroit, is a Ford Motor Company employee, and he says his son's not seeing him enough. So he wants his son coming down. So he got a membership so he can make with his kids. So it's really Cortex. I think it's the startup community, and it's the support we had from the civic as well as the major corporations here. And then also, obviously, we looked at the marketplace. It was ripe for it. We have some great maker spaces, don't get me wrong, here in St. Louis that we hope to collaborate with.
I'm a mentor at SCORE, and we get a lot of people that they're very early startups or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not want to commit to saying, hey, I need it for a month. It's like saying I need a hole, but I don't need to buy a drill yet. I just
Right.
need to have something done.
Right.
Is there things shorter than a month membership?
If somebody really wanted a daily membership, we would sell it. We don't encourage it. We don't promote it because it's usually kind of hard, but we would sell a day membership. Now, the other thing, too, is if you have a membership, and let's say you have a project team, let's say it's WashU, and WashU has 2 or 3 students that have the membership, but they want to bring in the rest of the team. They're allowed to bring the team in to observe. They just can't be using the equipment, those people that aren't members. Okay? So if we had to, we would sell you a daily membership. Rarely do we have people buying daily memberships. They usually go for a month. Yes?
I just want to have a question regarding what processes or procedures or anything that you have in place to address the concern of an entrepreneur who, who's concerned about his or her idea getting, stolen by someone else?
Good question. I get that all the time. First and foremost, we all know some of the most successful entrepreneurs are people that disclosed early on what their product was. I met with WashU, and somebody asked, is there a concern there? And they said most people know what to keep to themselves and what to share. We do not sign an NDA, so it's really on the honor system that people keep private what people be asked, and those entrepreneurs make sure that anything they don't want out, they're not letting people know. We do, when you bring any of your software and you load it on a flash drive, we ask you to put it back on the flash drive and take it with you, because we swipe all of the systems at the end of the day, every day. But we cannot guarantee confidentiality. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, Dave. Thanks for the introduction. I'll be around if anybody has any other questions or needs a card. And I would, again, we open before the end of the month. Most likely we'll have an open house around August 20th. The other thing I will tell you is we have some promotions going on right now. So if you go to our website, there's 3-month, 6-month, year memberships. There's even lifetime membership pre-opening promotions. We'll also be at the Murmuration Festival that Brian Cohen's going to be talking about next month. The Murmuration Festival, as you all know, is a 3-day festival going to be in Cortex that promotes science, art, music, as well as technology. We'll be having an open house at TechShop, so you can come through at that time as well. We're also, TechShop is sponsoring a maker event. I'll be the curator. We'll have about 40 makers. So if you know anybody that's a maker, free of charge, for 2 days, there'll be 3,500 people going through. They can display what they want. Have them go to the Murmuration website and just register for a maker. Okay? So again, I'll be around for questions. If you need a card, let me know. Thank you.